Good morning, I think. Good. It is a good morning. I don't know about you, but I'm still watching a heavy snowfall out here in Voorheesville, um, and enjoying a cup of tea. So it's a different kind of day. I'm going to offer these words as we come together from the Reverend Richard Gilbert, what we share. Let us celebrate the common rituals that make us kin, the poignancy of welcome and farewell, the anguish of defeat, the tender touch of those who call us friend, the exuberant joy of birth, the empty space in our hearts when a loved one dies, the ultimate loneliness that each knows, the warm embrace of comrades who welcome us to the celebration of life. The questions that persist and perplex and do not yield to our need for answers, the shining moments when the sun slants across our dim, meandering path and illuminates our way, the strange and anxious excitement of moving on to new places to call home, the fragments of frustration when our best efforts yield pitiful results, the helplessness we feel in a world that sometimes presents only problems, the high joy when some small victory for humanity is won and we have helped make it happen. In all our moments of doubt and despair, of problem and pain, let us remember the common lot shared by our common kin in all our times of triumph and truth, of faith and fortitude. Let us celebrate what we share. We are, after all, in this together. Welcome to our snow time service.
Please join us as we light our chalice with the words that will appear next on the screen. Welcoming all free seekers of truth and meaning. We gather to excite the human spirit, to inspire its growth and development, to respond morally and ethically to a troubled world, and to sustain a vital and nurturing religious community.
Good morning. Our first wisdom story this morning is On the Day You Were Born by Deborah Fraser. On the eve of your birth, word of your coming passed from animal to animal. The reindeer told the Arctic terns, who told the humpback whales, who told the Pacific salmon, who told the monarch butterflies, who told the green turtles, who told the European eel, who told the busy garden warblers, and the marvelous news migrated. While you waited in darkness, tiny knees curled to chin, the earth and her creatures, with the sun and the moon, all moved in their places, each ready to greet you the very moment
participants
of the very first day you arrived. On the day you were born, the round planet Earth turned toward your morning sky, whirling past darkness, spinning the night into light. On the day you were born, gravity's strong pull held you to the earth with a promise that you would never float away. While deep in space, the burning sun sent up towering flames lighting your sky from dawn until dusk. On the day you were born, the quiet moon glowed and offered to bring a full, bright face each month to your windowsill. While high above the North Pole, Polaris, the glittering North Star, stood still, shining silver light into your night sky. On the day you were born, the moon pulled on the ocean below, and wave by wave, a rising tide washed the beaches clean for your footprints. While far out at sea, clouds swelled with water drops, sailed to shore on a wind, and rained you a welcome across the earth's green lands. On the day you were born, a forest of tall trees collected the sun's light in their leaves, where, in silent mystery, they made oxygen for you to breathe. While close to your skin and as high as the sky, air rushed in and blew about, invisibly protecting you and all living things on earth. On the day you were born, the earth turned, the moon pulled, the sun flared, and then, with a push, you slipped out of the dark quiet where suddenly you could hear a circle of people singing with voices familiar and clear. And that is the end of our story. Next, we're going to see some pictures of babies and young children connected to us here at Albany UU. And then we'll have a reflection from Mike Myers on what it's like when a child is mostly grown up and is ready to graduate from high school.
Good morning, everybody. Katie's been sick the last couple of days, so I'm going to be pinch hitting for her this morning. 2024 marks the year in which Katie will be a high school student in the winter and the spring, and then transition to a college student in the summer and fall. I remember many years ago when I was a high school senior, feeling like in the second part of senior year that I was already halfway out the door. And I expect she'll experience some of those same feelings. Trying to focus on completing her studies at Albany High and on enjoying activities such as mock trial and the school musical, while wondering what her college experience will bring. Old friends she'll miss, the new ones she'll make. It's a lot. As her dad, I share many of these conflicting feelings. I want to focus on the present, on enjoying all of these high school lasts, her last concerts, mock trials, and shows. But I'm also excited to dream along with her about what's to come next. Both Anne and I are grateful that we can be part of that journey.
There we go. Hi, this is Michael Crowell. How are you? So I have a few thoughts about retirement. My parents both retired on the same day in 1998. My dad was almost 65 and my mom had just turned 62. They were both retiring from second careers, having both started their professional lives as teachers overseas and ended them working in the private sector in the US. After retiring, my dad was very fond of saying, "Retirement is highly underrated." I'm not sure exactly who he thought was denigrating retirement, perhaps his former capitalist overlords, but for some reason, the phrase really stuck with me. Fast forward 25 years to July of 2023. I was 62 and a half and working as an analyst at the New York State Health Department in Albany. My own career had gotten off to a slow start and gone through many more iterations than those of either of my parents, and that was just in my 20s. Seeing me floundering, my dad gently suggested that a steady job provides a platform from which to view the world. That seems to have finally sunk in. After 2 years of graduate school and several more jobs, I was offered a job as a labor economist at the New York State Labor Department in Hicksville on Long Island. The job sounded interesting, and the guy who was to be my boss seemed and was super nice. I took the job. It was tedious at times, and it didn't pay very well, but mindful of my dad's admonition, I stuck with it. In hindsight, I'm very glad that I did, since 28 years later on, July 11, 2023, to be precise, New York State began paying me not to work. What a concept. I discovered that my dad had been right all along. Retirement is highly underrated. I'm coming up on the 6th-month anniversary of retiring this next week. And so far, I have not regretted the decision or missed my old job one bit. What have I been doing with my time in the interim? I tried to hang on to the good things from my pre-retirement life. These include regular physical exercise, the community at Albany UU, especially the choir, foreign language conversation groups in French, Russian, and Spanish. Every week hosting a former DOH colleague who lives in Westchester County and faces a commute of more than 2 hours each way to his job. So I let him bunk with me. And finally, the search for love in all its forms. Stay tuned for more updates.
Good morning, everyone. Even though I can't see you, it's great to be here and that we have the opportunity to be together as a community, even if it's electronic. It's great to be here. Good morning, and thank you for being here. It's been an interesting time since Reverend Lynn asked me to share something about my recent transition from living at home in Guilderland to moving to Beverwyck here in Guilderland as well, or I should say Slingerlands. Some of you here have already made that transition and know what the experience is like. I had been living at home in Guilderland for 30 years, enjoying my backyard and the neighborhood I lived in, and was not really wanting to move, but it was time. My physical body and brain were not going to get younger with time, and I thought, time to move. So what's it been like so far, that move and the transition from my home to create a new home? Truth be told, I wish I was still at home and enjoying the backyard and living in Guilderland, but I'm also enjoying the changes and opportunities as I've moved to Beverwyck recently. The best part of the move to Beverwyck is, of course, you can guess, the interesting people living there, being able to enjoy good conversations and interesting activities going on daily, although I'm still partway home and still finishing up things there. As an aging senior citizen, I'm enjoying it and I'm thankful to connect with others of like mind and interests here, as well as being able to maintain my wonderful connections with Albany U. It's great that we have this opportunity and the technology to connect with each other on a lovely snowy morning. Thank you for being here.
Anyway, is this any better? I really hope that this works this time.
Yes, we hear you.
Awesome. Okay, that was successful then. Anyway, I'm Xanthi. You may have seen my name floating around on some of your orders of service or in emails. My name is a little bit weird, but it is pronounced Xanthi with like a Shakespearean "the" at the end. I do use they, them pronouns, and I've been the church's office assistant since mid-October of, I guess, what is now technically last year. Folks have been very welcoming here, and it's nice to finally be able to introduce myself to so many of you. People will come in through the offices and, we'll meet that way. I promise I'm not violating any child labor laws, despite how young I may look. You think I'm joking, but this concern has been expressed to me before. I am 22 years old. I'll be the first to admit that to my family and friends, me working at a church is pretty ironic. I have been asked by a few different members of the congregation if I have any type of church or faith background at all, and I'll be the first to tell you that I do not. No one in my immediate family does either, so it's kind of a unique opportunity to be here. My great-grandparents were Mormons on paper, but alcoholics in practice, and if you know anything about Mormonism, alcoholic drinks are kind of a no-no. And my Aunt Joy was famously kicked out of Sunday school for telling the other kids that dead people rot like apples. I think she was around maybe 7 or 8 years old at this point in time. And my mom still jokes about how she, when I think I was around 7 or 8 years old, told me that God wasn't real, but Santa is, so I better believe in him. So I don't know. We're fun. So you might not believe me when I say I feel pretty at home here already. I have a lot of experience working with nonprofit organizations and working with straightforward and open-minded people. But I have a lot of respect for religion, even if I don't have a lot of experience with it. The biggest transition to this job that this job has presented with me has less to do with the church itself or the culture, and more with how I personally relate to my future. Reverend Hadi consistently looks for ways to tie my work here back to my career ambitions. So when I first interviewed to work here, I told her that I liked the idea of leading some type of environmental advocacy organization. And I feel super flattered when she reminds me of that. When she brings it up, it tells me that she can see that future for me, which is really validating coming from someone with a lot more experience. But I'll admit that I also feel uncomfortable and unsure when she mentions it, because she can see that future for me, but can I? Was I lying, or was I just saying what I think people want to hear when I brought that up? There's a lot of uncertainty in this world around our climate's breakdown and the instability of our institutions. And I usually feel like I'm going through the motions of what a young person should be doing. But now that I've been given this opportunity to start building my career and bridging that gap from being a student to becoming a young professional, I realize that I'm still building something. Even if I'm unsure or scared or kicking and screaming, I'm still moving forward. I think my discomfort means that I still have some growing to do, and I can't tell you how this transition will end up. I am looking forward to retirement already. I can't even tell you if life transitions like this even do have an end. Maybe life is just a constant state of discomfort. I think about this stuff a lot. But I do feel like I'm in very good company here while I figure it out. And again, it is really nice to meet all of you. So I'm glad that you guys could hear me.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yay, excellent. So many of you know my father passed away last year. So I'll be speaking about losing a loved one. As a child, I had grandparents and a great aunt who died of what I was told was old age. I had an acceptance of death when it came to the end of a long life. Add in the Catholic idea of redemption, heaven, and holy peace, and death was a gift to those whose time on earth had ceased. But dying, oh, dying in old age is something else. And yet I confess my ignorance of the great spectrum of experience. I spoke with cousins at their 93-year-old father's funeral the other night and heard of a one-day sleep followed by a day of immobility before labored breathing and death. So tidy and deliberate. I have only this one death process that I was intimate with so far. From my perspective, the harshest indignities, needing your children to feed and bathe you, lying in a big bed in the living room where your recliner used to be, staring at the white ceiling instead of the New York Giants on TV, talking about going home, or worse, saying things that sound like commands we can't fulfill, as the words are gibberish. This from a fearful sort of father who was tall and born in the winter of the Great Depression with half a roof over his head. The guy who threw his slipper at you from that same spot in the living room 40 years earlier when he didn't want to leave his recliner, but you disobeyed him by talking on the one rotary phone in that one room too long. The lingering positives, like an army, my siblings, mother, and I strategized and celebrated our small victories. He held a cup of coffee and drank it. He perked up for his granddaughter and called my mother by name. We embraced for several minutes one Sunday eve, while the family bustled around us eating pizza and watching football. The family grew tighter, uniting for a purpose. The war may be lost, but the battles were heroic, with celebrated victories amidst sacrifices along the way. Ultimately, my father died at home, a month shy of 90, with mother nearby. No dramatic gasping or morphine shots, a good death. I rushed over and held his hand to feel the warmth leave over the next hour. The crew arrived while my children, the youngest, were at school unaware. We began to put in motion our preparations and announcements. Death may be the great mystery, but dying over time in hospice is the work of dying. Dying takes time and patience. How can one be skin and bones and still exist? Dementia, Parkinson's, leukemia. What got him in the end? Probably the weakening of functions from Parkinson's, but I will call it old age. Who can believe it would be so hard to finally die once you go down for the count? While I know it can be quick, in my experience, it was 2 months of bedridden burdens, the burden on the dying, the burden of caretaking. It was a slog through ancient mud. May peace be with my father's spirit and all who pass.
Our second story today is called You'll Find Me. There we go. By Amanda Ross and Hill, illustrated by Joanne Lou Rioff. My dear one, life, like spring, is far too short. I will not always be greeting the morning with you, but you'll find me in the soft sounds of slippered feet, the smell of breakfast tickling your nose, the way the sun spills into your window, whispering, "Get up, sleepyhead." I will not always be holding you tight on my lap on our favorite chair, but you'll find me in the curve of the cushion, the first notes of a familiar song. My love will always be, and as long as you look with more than just your eyes, you'll find me. If you learn to watch with your heart, you'll find me all around. In the sigh of spring, a gentle hair-ruffling breeze, the satisfaction of finishing a really good book, something being sipped and savored. Even though you won't always see me waving from the crowd, you'll find me in other ways. The deep breaths at the beginning, the burst of speed at the finish. I'll be in every cheer. And you can do it, even when they're said by lips that aren't mine. Every hug that warms you or lifts you off your feet. Every loving glance from eyes that truly see. A listening ear that hears when you're in need. They all will hold a part of me. I will not always be around the table for dinners and holidays, but you'll find me in the flicker of candlelight, the pause between please and thank you, the feel of sprinkles in your palm, the tinkling of silverware and laughter. I will not always be tucking you in and saying goodnight, but you'll find me in the touch of covers under your chin, a wish, a story, a lullaby, a sliver of moonlight falling across your face, that space between waking and dreaming, the soothing shade of your favorite tree. My love will always be. And as long as you look with more than just your eyes, you'll find me. And now we will hear from Thayer Heath with some lessons on living a long life. And as you may recall, we celebrated Thayer's 100th birthday earlier this year.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Living to be 100 years old was something I didn't expect to happen. So I'm on a new and different journey, which is an internal one. Getting a pacemaker for my heart in my early 90s has given me new energy so that I can walk half a mile daily in the parking lot of the apartment building. When I do my half-mile walk, I walk close to the edge of the lot. My walker has a seat, so I stop at certain places and take time to thank Mother Earth and Father Sky for the many gifts I receive daily. The apartment building is for the elderly, run by HUD, with 90 apartments. Most of the tenants are women who have lost their husbands and homes, and single men. I go down to the community room for an occasional event and also to work daily with a friend at the puzzle table and to interact with people exploring the giveaway table. 3 days a week, I eat lunch with about 15 other tenants. Most of the tenants, let me start. Most of the tenants are working poor, and having been a social worker in my working years, I feel right at home. But listening now to the stories of their lives is different for me because I am just listening and not judging them or trying to fix the situation. This is a new experience for me. Having friends in their 70s and 80s is a definite plus because I get to hear their stories of going to concerts, plays, music, movies, and trips, which is enough because I don't have the same energy level and they keep me in touch with the cultural events in the area. My children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren visit frequently, so I am truly blessed. I meditate twice a day in groups of old and new friends, and learning to meditate is giving me the opportunity to explore new feelings of love, joy, and peace in this crazy world we live in. So I'm still learning to live one day at a time, and even 1 hour at a time. Most of all, I'm not afraid of dying. Thanks for listening.
Good morning. My name is Alice Sage, and I serve today as Pastoral Care Associate. Today, we have been reminded of joys and sorrows that have touched our lives and the life of the congregation. Those that have been shared since the last time we celebrated the Wheel of Life in October 2022. I invite you now in silence to take time to remember and to reflect on the joys and sorrows by which you have been touched. Now, if you would like, enter your joys and sorrows in the chat. We'll take time to see what has been written. You will also have an opportunity to share in the breakout room at the end of service. I'd like to read a poem by John O'Donoghue. I met him when I lived in Ireland for 5 years, and I was very, very lucky to sit at his table when he was trying to save the Burren, which he did. And it's a to me, it's one of my favorites. And it's called Bannock, and it's called Blessing. Bannock in Ireland is blessing. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulder and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the current of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so, may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mend your life.
An important way that we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with a pledge paid throughout the year. But another way to support the good work of this congregation is by making a generous contribution by way of one of the options shown on the next slide. You can click on the tiny URL link in the chat window to contribute, or you can send a text to the number shown on the screen. The examples on the slide show how to label your text to indicate the amount and the purpose of your gift. The hymn that we will be hearing next is number 350. I'm sorry, it is not. It is Offertory Music is Life, which is by Ludovico Einstadt.
Yes, from Rainer Maria Rilke. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer.
John and Peggy. Got on mute.
Hi, Peggy and I are here to invite you to join a circle dinner. Connecting with other people is so important to our happiness. The deeper the connection, the happier we are. The monthly circle dinners are a great remedy for disconnection and isolation. At circle dinners, you have the opportunity to share good food and conversation in a relaxed setting. We have two kinds of circle dinners now, one for families and another for adults. The next family circle dinner will be January 27th at the church. If you want to sign up, contact Kevin Yee. Peggy's going to put his email address in the chat. The next circle dinner at home will be held on January 20th, and you can contact me. Circle dinners are usually held on the third Saturday of each month. They are announced in windows, but if you contact me, I will be sure to send you an email reminder each month. Thanks.
Please join us as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This ends our service, but I believe, Reverend Lynn, will you be available to speak with folks after the service?
I can join a breakout room or two.
Okay, and I'll leave it up to our expert technicians to do that. And you could see on your screen right now the participants in our quickly put together electronic Zoom service for today.
I want to thank everyone who participated. Kevin for his technical work, Al and Ruth and Al and Alice and for their flexibility. It's been a joy to put this together on this snowy day. I also want to welcome Victoria, who I saw in the chat was new, but wasn't able to introduce herself to us. So we'll look forward to seeing you again in days to come, Victoria.